Well, thank you guys. Thanks for coming. Thanks for the brown bag, V brown bag. Hi, welcome. I'm Sean Burton. I'm a technical account manager with VMware. So over to my right is Byron Wells. He's the global IT architect, global IT manager, for Brock Solutions. And we also have our technical resource in the field as well, David Jorbina. So just a little bit on a disclaimer, of course, obligatory good disclaimer, but just FYI, some of the information that we may be presenting today may be forward-facing, and may not be specifically coming, and we just need to make sure that it's understood that there's no legal ramifications that we possibly what's going to bring this into future products. Any of this information is confidential, however, certainly able to be used in the future. So. And that we'll take it over to Brock Solutions and what they do.
Hi, again, as I said, my name is Byron Wells. I'm the corporate IT manager for Brock Solutions. We're an engineering and automation company reaching out to quite a number of verticals, including healthcare and manufacturing and transport and logistics. We also do panel fabrication for companies. So we do a lot of automation. We are a VMware reseller to a lot of our customers, so we are heavily vested into the VMware product line. One of the things we were looking at from last year, we came to our first VMworld as a company last year, this is our second, and we're looking at how to make our company more agile, more elastic, more scalable, and things we saw last year put us in the direction towards doing that. So our business case was to manage IT through a proactive approach to meet the needs of an agile business, empowering developers through automation and scalability. So some of the challenges that we had a very slow performing environment when I started with this company. And it was forcing us into a redesign of our environment. We also had our customers, who are the employees of Brock Solutions, demanding speed. They wanted performance. They wanted rapid deployment of their development environments. We needed to be able to work within evolving security requirements, both for our internal and external customers. And we needed to move away from being reactive in our IT approach to a more proactive approach. And also building a solid disaster recovery and business continuity plan. So what we did is we did a rebuild of our environment. We brought in new equipment. We instituted vSAN in our environment, and as well as other storage to meet the demands that we had. The vSAN, our customers love it. We throw them on there. We actually have our developers asking to be put on that environment. For the scalability, again, vSAN, we're doing vRealize automation. That's the middle of a POC right now for that to get it up and running. And we also implemented NSX and Palo Alto in our environment. And the merge of those two components has been one of the best things that we've done as a company. Because NSX gives us the microsegmentation, it gives us that software-defined networking, but Palo Alto on top of that now gives us the ability to manage our NSX layers and Panorama, all through Panorama. So our Palo Alto firewalls and our NSX managed from one place. We also threw in the network insight into the mix, so we can now model and look predictively at our environments and make changes. So there's the tools we implemented, the vRealize operations, network insight, as well as log insight. So that moved us from that reactive more to the proactive environment. So my colleague David over there, who will answer your questions at the end if you'd like, now looks at these logs every day, and instead of going, oh, we have a problem, somebody tells us outside, we know ahead of time, we're already reacting to the problem before our customers tell us. The other thing we did towards the DR and the BC was we did the rebuilds, we threw NSX in. NSX gives us stretch between our environments. So we have offices throughout North America, we have Dallas, Vancouver, Kitchener, Ontario. So we can now stretch our VXLANs between these sites. And we're doing vCenter replications down to Dallas. If we lose a host or a failure in Kitchener, we can spin up that load right away down in Dallas. That was huge to us, because prior we didn't have that capability. We threw in Rubrik as our backup device in our appliance. If you didn't get a chance to visit, I'm going to put a shameless plug in for them. Check out Rubrik. We have instant backup and less than 1 minute recovery of any VM now in our environment. So we were starting to leverage all these components within what we were doing. And part of this was zero outage during all of our rebuild and redesign. There was no outages to our customers whatsoever. So we've been able to layer these things in and meet the demands of what they're asking for. And we saw an increase of at least 2 times the usage of our systems. So what developers would tend to do in the past was, oh, I got a desktop under my desk here, I'm going to put all my virtual machines there. So they were kind of outside of the development environments. Now they're putting them all within our VMware environments, and we're able to do the things like backup, stretch clustering with them, and the things that they were demanding. Go outside. So with disaster recovery, NSX enabling the project recovery, the stretch clusters, the migration between geographic locations, removes the re-IPing of systems for us. That was huge. How do we bring a system up without having to make major changes within the environment to make it available? The thing we really enjoyed about this year's conference was the extensions into both AWS and Azure. We use Azure for our secondary storage, and we were looking into how to make that more of our DR site. So NSX being available in Azure and AWS gives us more options of going down that road. vSphere, we moved from a single vSphere flat environment to all our sites to using linked vSphere. Can't say how good that is. It's really nice because now we do get the vSphere replication. We get a lot of the pieces that we wouldn't have had if we just had one flat vSphere for all these different locations. We are looking at spinning up AWS vSphere and linking that into our environment also, and starting to do some testing and work towards using that. Rubrik again becomes our primary backup platform, Azure as our second. And moving forward, we are very interested in the announcements they made with the VMware and AWS. I mean, that gives us a lot of stability from our environment, because I don't know how many of your buildings are like ours. We have no sprinklers in our buildings. Our building code allowed them to do that. And if there was a fire, and does anybody here not have like toaster ovens and stuff in your buildings? We've had people leave their toaster ovens on. If that had caused a fire, we would have lost an entire part of our data center. So prior to what we had implemented, that was going to be a disaster that we could not recover from. At least in today's world, we can recover from that kind of disaster. And AWS gives us that ability now with our Rubrik backup in the cloud. We can spin the environment up in AWS and now bring those cold storage DR copies right live into the cloud. To us, that's huge moving forward. So that's going to drive our DR AAS and our IaaS. Did I miss anything on that one?
No, other than the fact that we're trying to do whatever we possibly can to give the realistic value, add to it back to what the customer is actually trying to achieve through following just some of these different strategies to give us a better approach to serve up the business itself. So
yeah, so now we can fail at any one of our sites and bring the machines back up. So we are using the microsegmentation, as we mentioned, with the NSX product. And if anybody here implemented NSX? So you know that, not yet? Okay. You put it online, and then you're going to spend the next year tuning it. And probably even longer. It's a continuous process. And this is where the network insights come in really handy for us. We can look at network pathing, and we can say, okay, we think we have microsegmentation here, but we don't. And it will actually give firewall recommendations to us that we can then go in Panorama, create new firewall rules, and truly microsegment that section of the network. So again, if you're going to buy NSX, don't go without using Network Insight. It is your best friend for creating the rules and making sure that you're doing what you expect to do with the product. So that allows us to move all of our VLANs from our firewalls. The way the company was doing it before I started, every VLAN went through the firewall. Perimeter firewall, not an internal firewall. And you just think of the extra load that started to put on our perimeter devices, which are supposed to be just handling ingress and egress security, right? So we're pulling all of those off and moving them onto VXLANs within NSX. We're starting to add the firewall rules. We're starting to add the microsegmentation rules. And one of our future goals here we're going to be doing is actually putting a Palo Alto on the edge of every one of our hosts. We do have security requirements from the US, like DoD requirements, ITAR requirements, and in Canada, where our headquarters is, we have CATSA requirements and privacy requirements that we have to meet. So NSX and Palo Alto is going to give us the ability to meet these requirements and put the security in place at the level of the host rather than a perimeter. So it's working out really well for us, and we're moving layer 3 into the virtual as opposed to being on our firewalls right now, which is where my network guy had placed it. So if we look at our digital transformation journey over the last year, when we started, we had nothing. except for we were running VMware on 4 hosts. So we didn't have any of the pieces in place. And over the last year, we've made it down to where we're starting to implement phase 4 of this software lifecycle for the SDDC. And it has been a lot of work. We've consolidated our virtualization to 100%. We're using x86 processors and everything, so we're pretty standard like most data centers. We've moved from single site to scalable sites in multiple clusters. And all of our business critical apps have been virtualized and replicated. So that first step is huge. And if we go down to stage 2, the optimization project, the biggest piece was the automated disaster recovery. We are at 90% into that, and the last piece being the AWS. The VMware and AWS fills the last piece of that equation for us. The infrastructure as a service, we've got the networking and security virtualization with the NSX Palo Alto, and we're using storage virtualization with vSAN. Some IT guys that I talk to think I'm silly because I'm trying to phase out all the fiber channel out of my environment. It's becoming more and more cost prohibitive and not a benefit to our environment. We're using iSCSI storage and we're using vSAN. And the vSAN gives us that scalability that we require. It gives us so much that we didn't have. So if I need to, I just drop another host in, scale out my vSAN, and I've got additional storage for my developers. It's just worked quite well. We look at our platform as a service, that's where we're at now. We're in the middle of a POC with VMware. We're spinning up all the automation pieces. And every tool that we've implemented, whether it be Palo Alto, whether it be the NSX, whether it be, you name it, you have Rubrik, if it doesn't lend towards automation, we chose not to use it. We want to be able to use our automation platform to say, here's your self-service portal, put in what you want as a developer. I want XYZ in my VMs, I want this VLAN, I want this speed, I want this size. And when I click that button, it should just do everything, including dropping it into the backup, creating that VXLAN. And that's the stage we're at now in our journey. And it's working quite well at this point. We also added one other thing into the equation, which wasn't on our roadmap last year, and that's the Identity Manager with Workspace ONE. We're getting more and more requirements just to make things easy. You know, we have Salesforce that wants to go out on the road and not have to authenticate to every application they want. So we're simplifying that equation also and using Identity One and the Identity Manager to back end our automation. So somebody logs into our automation portal, they're already signed into the environment through Identity Manager. If somebody's outside commissioning a site for one of our customers and they need to spin something up really quickly and test, they can do it with Identity Manager getting in, go to the portal, spin up their machines, do their tests, tear it down, go back and finish the work for the customer. So it's more of a flexibility at the end for our developers and our commissioners and our project managers to actually do what they need to deliver our end result to our customers. Because at the end of the day, if we can't sell to the airline a baggage system, or we can't sell to this manufacturing firm something that makes their job easier, then we failed as a provider. And all these components just make that work. So moving forward, we are looking at the IT as a service. We're going to be able to show back what the cost of all this is to the questions after. We're going to be able to show back to the project team or the business unit what their costs are within this entire thing. So we're also going to be able to do chargeback if we choose to. We're going to be able to do SLA reporting. Are we delivering to the customers in an agile method? Are we able to meet the demands that they require? And yeah, reports as a service back to the business, okay? So that's where we're at and that's where we're going. Pointed the right way. Now I'm gonna let Sean have the last piece here because he's been beneficial in driving a lot of this, and we use TAM quite differently than most organizations. As Sean will attest, we turned them totally around because we identified that it wasn't worthwhile to bring him in and just say, here's metrics and here's how we normally do things. We knew we were gonna rebuild our environment. We needed him to just come right in, guns blazing, and say, these are your best practices, these are your best steps. So I'm going to let him just talk about the program just a little bit.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks so much. Thanks, Byron. So effectively, I've been with the TAM program for a bit of time now, but as Byron was just saying and alluding to, my position with Brock Solutions has really has enlightened me as an individual and brought me up to a different stage, because quite frankly, I've never worked with an environment that's just so aggressive with their timelines. A lot of my customers that I actually work with are in the banking industry, in the telecom industry, so they're not really all that fast with their movement and so forth. So it's been a refreshing exercise to actually work with this particular team, to actually try to help them and aid them in what's going in their transformation journey, while planning and implementing through the overall process itself. So a little bit about the TAM program. I don't know if you guys know or have ever heard of the TAM program itself. Let me just quickly describe it. VMware TAM program has been around. I should actually know that information, but VMware TAM program has been around for quite some time. I think we started in 2005, 2006, in that particular time frame, but we may have started just shortly there before. Regardless, the TAM program is a customer advocate. As well, I don't actually have it with me, but you'll see a bunch of people with pins, with labels that basically say, "I am your customer advocate." That's basically what a TAM is. TAM is not necessarily the person that's going to know all the information, but he's going to be the person that goes into our organization, VMware, and finds the information for you, and then delivers back against what it is that you're trying to achieve. And there's multiple different examples of how we've actually been able to help Brock Solutions in this particular journey throughout the actual process itself. There's been everything goes through a process, but we've done some best practice reviews of the environment. We started from scratch, right? We just rebuilt a fresh greenfield environment, but we wanted to make sure as we were doing the greenfield environment, it was meeting the needs of all the best practices that VMware does deploy. So we actually did that and went through the actual whole prospectus. We've engaged some subject matter expertise. We've obviously done NSX. We've done a number of different transformative technologies for Brock Solutions, and in doing so, we've needed to make sure that we had the right resources to bear at the particular time that they needed to be there. I've helped to drive some escalations, whether it be on product, support, or engineering. Throughout any journey, if you actually look at it, there's always going to be bumps along the way. It's how you get from start to the end of that particular journey that matters, and how quickly and efficiently you can actually move through that journey with the least amount of interruptions. And that's where the TAM program actually assists. We've done some roadmap and futures conversations as well, just to make sure. That's one of the things that the TAM program does, and we try to align our roadmap, or the customer's roadmap, I should say, with what we're actually coming and what we're achieving. Along with that, we also have things like product managers that are actually going to be talking and have been talking with Brock Solutions in order to actually figure out how we improve our product. Because we're looking at our largest customers and even the SMB market to actually try to understand what it is that we do and how we're going to continue to adopt and change our overall landscape. So,
Sean? Yeah, and I can't undervalue that enough. Like I say, we threw him into the mix totally different, knowing there was a lot of changes to make. We have found at least one certified bug with VMware, and I'll tell you right now that Sean stepped up and proved the advantage of this program to us by being awake with David over there at 2 o'clock in the morning with an engineer escalation call, and just keeping through the process and making sure that engineering is engaged in the entire workflow. So I mean, that's been invaluable to us as a company, and we did use the professional services for our deployment of NSX, because you're putting something totally new in, you want to make sure it's done right. And we did an engagement where we had a professional service on site for 4 weeks, just looking at the environment, what we wanted to do, and then actually helping to implement that solution. And again, invaluable, that 4 weeks worth of service from them. So it's been challenging. I know some of my guys think I'm crazy because I pushed them through a lot of change in a very short period of time, but the end result and goal has been justified with our end users being happy with what's being delivered to them, and taking us to that next step where we as IT people, professionals, can sleep at night knowing that we have a resilient environment, that we're not dealing with disaster potential, and for us that's been huge too. So I think that's it.
Any questions?
Questions we can take offline, because